Tomorrow's Alabama's bowl game, and more importantly, it's the final game for some really historic Alabama players.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online is Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is thankful that you guys join us every single day because you guys are the best. And you newbies, hey, welcome aboard. Also want to give you a quick shout out here. I got to give a shout out to two guys. I went to the Alabama basketball game. We're going to talk about that in the third segment. But I definitely want to give a shout out because I feel like I should. Travis saw me at the basketball game. He's from Brazil. And he said, I watch you guys every day. And all I could think about was like, that is so cool. And then I should have told him the story about how my parents went to Carnival many moons ago. And Dad came back and said, it's the dangest thing he's ever been to in his life. He's been to 3 World's Fairs, never seen anything like it. And he said, he said people who have absolutely no money at all will save up their pennies all year long to spend whatever they have on a thong that's as big as a piece of dental floss and wear it at Carnival, and that's it. They don't care about the rest. He said this is the party of all parties.
Can't believe your dad, of all people, did that.
Huh? Well, Dad
I can't believe your dad wore a thong at Carnival.
Well, by the way, if you've ever watched this podcast, you know that that's also the same story where my parents and a bunch of people took a guy with them to sort of bartend and do stuff while they went, and he had never even looked at his own birth certificate. It's a man, a full-fledged man, not kidding. But on his birth certificate, it was erroneously put female, and they had to call senators and congressmen and everybody else to get that fixed so he could go out of the country. And Dad said, I don't know what to do other than just pull his pants down when we get to the airport. What do you want me to do? So, anyway, all right. So shout out to Travis from Brazil, and shout out to Caleb, who also came up to me at the basketball game yesterday. So we'll talk about basketball in a minute. But we do want to talk about tomorrow's game at 11 o'clock Central, God's time, Alabama, Michigan, first game of the day. Look, Michigan's missing a lot of dudes. We've talked about this. We probably should do our predictions today, Jimmy. Well, I hadn't even thought about that. Sure. We may do it in the morning. But, it's a bowl game, and people will say it's meaningless. I think it is very meaningful, not only for that double-digit win thing that we're going for, but, what you got to remember is they're dudes like Tyler Booker and Jahad Campbell and Jalen Milroe. Throw some other ones at me, Jimmy. I know Malachi Moore would certainly be on the list if he weren't injured, that are playing their final game. And Jalen Milroe might go down as one of the more polarizing figures in at least recent Alabama history. And but you can't take away what he's actually done in terms of positivity for Alabama. The gravedigger, he's had some other incredible moments winning an SEC championship game and the MVP in that game. So he's it's going to be so surreal to see him taking his last snaps. And yes, I would say, I speak for Jimmy, neither one of us think he'll be back in an Alabama uniform.
No, I think this is his last game at Alabama. I do, and I think his legacy will be complicated. I know you say he's a polarizing figure. I think that's an accurate thing to say based on the amount of time he's discussed and argued about in social media and on the message boards. But what's funny to me is when we say he's the most polarizing figure, that makes it sound like he's off the field, he's controversial in some way. Really, he's only controversial in the way that we seem to have a huge split in the fan base about how great, good, or terrible he is. That's the polarizing part. It has nothing to do with the kid who has been fantastic, a fantastic ambassador for Alabama off the field, who's always said the right things, who's been remarkably easy to pull for. But it is a complicated legacy, I would say. And I think it will be shaped a little bit by how tomorrow goes. It will be.
It will be. A couple of things. Last night I was watching the NFL, the Falcons-Washington game, right? Mm-hmm. And Deron Payne, says Deron Payne, Alabama. They put their faces up and they say what college or what high school they went to or whatever. And I thought, if Jalen Milroe does make it in the pros and he ever is a starter, he's the guy that when they say who you are and what college you went to, he'll go, Jalen Milroe, roll tide. And there's something about that.
That's true.
Even if you don't appreciate him as a player, which I kind of get, because, you can't help but think about the Oklahoma game. That Oklahoma game just sticks out like a sore thumb, right? It's so baffling. And I understand, but you got to appreciate how much he loves Alabama. I feel like Jalen Milroe loves Alabama the way we love Alabama. Now, one other thing that, I was going to say something else about Jalen Milroe, and I forgot it now. Didn't I say I had two things?
Yep, you did.
I forgot it. So, Colin Cowherd, I don't know if you saw this. He had a very interesting take yesterday. He said Notre Dame he has heard Notre Dame is going to pursue a quarterback who's a huge name that's still playing right now after the bowl season is done in the transfer portal. And everybody immediately jumped to Quinn Ewers, but some other folks said, Jalen Milroe would be a good fit. Do I think that will happen? I don't. I think Jalen Milroe is going pro. But that was just something else that I found kind of interesting.
Well, it's, we could do the whole show or multiple shows on Milroe, and it would all be fascinating. I've said this before. I'm saying it now, and I realize that Jalen Milroe is currently number 3 on Mel Kiper's big board for quarterbacks. So I know his draft stock's fairly high as of today, and we'll see what changes between now and April. But I still think this is true. I think Jalen Milroe would be well served by playing another season of college football, whether that's at Alabama or somewhere else. I think he has things he can work on, which would make him an even better NFL prospect. I think he would improve as an NFL prospect by playing another season, and these are things he can improve on by playing in the college game. For instance, I'm talking about the things that make you a successful pro quarterback, like the pre-snap reads, the post-snap reads. It's not just the mechanics of throwing the football. I think Jalen Milroe is good enough to play in the NFL right now with that. I think just the mental side of understanding defenses to understanding protections, I think these are the things he could work on. I think he'd be well served by coming back. I don't believe he will. I think he's basically believes, and he has reasons to believe he would be a first-round pick. And if you're a first-round pick and you have 2 degrees from college, there's no reason to play another year of college football. So he goes to the NFL with my blessings, though I'm sure he really needed that. But I do think, even though it's right or smart for him to go to the NFL, I think it would be even smarter for him to return, because you only get one shot at the NFL. You only get one shot at being drafted high, which means an investment is made in you, which earns you a lot of leash. I think he should come back to college football, maybe not necessarily Alabama, because it is so, as you used the word, that he's so, what word did you use? Not controversial.
Polarizing.
Yeah. I don't know that it's best for him in that environment, where if he went to, quote, a Notre Dame and was treated as a hero by showing up, maybe that would be helpful. I think playing for Lincoln Riley is obviously something that's been a nice ticket for guys that want to be taken high in the draft. So I think there's other options out there, but I think he's going to the NFL, and we'll see where he gets drafted. Regardless, Luke, of being an Alabama guy, Jalen's probably the most interesting player in the entire draft, because I could see him going top 10, because Anthony Richardson went 4, right? I can see him going top 10. I can see him not going in the first round. I'd see him going to day 3 if his game is really picked apart by NFL scouts and there's more doubts raised as the film is really dissected. So I'd see him going top 10 or day 3. That makes him the most interesting guy in the whole draft. But I do believe in the end today, if you're asking me, my official prediction would be second round. Will I be surprised if someone falls in love with Jalen and takes him in round 1? I won't be surprised 1 inch.
Yeah, it's It's so funny. I just Googled mock drafts where you were talking, and this one was from December 2nd on Yahoo, but it had him going 7th to the Jets. It would be the most Jets pick of Jetsdom for them to pick him.
It'd be terrible for Jalen. Terrible.
It's terrible for Jalen. It's terrible for everybody. He needs to go somewhere where he can, you know what he needs to do? He needs to be like in a Mac Jones situation at Jacksonville, even though I know Mac Jones got drafted by the Patriots, but now he's in Jacksonville, and Mac Jones looked pretty doggone good yesterday. And he needs just a little bit of time. Mac Jones needed some time behind somebody else to really get his stride and to have some weapons. And Jacksonville's got Brian Thomas Jr., who makes the quarterback look good. And if the quarterback's good, he makes Brian Thomas look good. So Jalen needs to sit behind somebody for just a minute. He doesn't need to Anthony Richardson this thing and just be shoved into action. He needs a minute. So I'm hoping he goes somewhere like even a Pittsburgh or something like that. Boy, I think he'd be great in somewhere like Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh would be ideal. And Pittsburgh had already occurred to me. I guess they're not going to get rid of Justin Fields, so they wouldn't be in the market for number 2, although, that would be great if they could trade Justin Fields, get something for him, and then Milroe sit behind Russell Wilson for a year or two. I think that would be ideal. The Saints, less so because they don't have such a great team around him yet. But I think sitting behind a healthy Derek Carr for a year or two, just somewhere where you can go and just sit and learn from a veteran NFL quarterback while they build a good team around him, that would be ideal for him. A couple other guys, I don't want to, could we do
well, let's save them for the second segment because I got to get to our first break here.
Do that.
Because I want to tell you about Rocket Money, Jimmy. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to us. We've had a few subscriptions that we didn't even realize that we were paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances, yo. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions or your spending habits or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to about $740 a year using all the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right. So a couple other players, of course. The obvious ones, Jahad Campbell and Tyler Booker. I know there are others, and there could be some others that actually get in the portal afterwards. Could. But, I think those two are the ones, and they could come back, but they're not.
Yeah, I don't think anyone close to the program believes either one will be back, especially Booker. If one comes back, maybe Campbell more likely than Booker, but I don't believe Jahad Campbell's coming back. And again, I think Milroe, Booker, Campbell. I think everything else, anyone else that leaves other than them three would be a surprise. I'm not sure where we're counting Jamarian Latham in any of this because Latham participated on senior day as if he's leaving, but has not made an announcement. And he does have a year he could use. So I think Latham is a little up in the air. Not sure about that. My guess is he's gone, but I don't know that. Anyone else that leaves would be a surprise, I think. It would be a smaller surprise if it's like an LT Overton or a Damani Jackson, but I don't think that's something that's expected. So I think everyone will be back. What I'd like to point out, Luke, is that it is the last game for Milroe and Booker. Milroe with the controversial legacy. Booker's not. Tyler Booker, I don't know that a lot of people understand this, but if we're taking into consideration all SEC, all American honors, and the fact that he's likely to be taken in the first round as a guard, Tyler Booker is one of the best guards to ever play football at Alabama. Now throw in the fact that he's been a 100% awesome dude off the field. He's fantastic with the media. He's fantastic in all that he says. He's a leader. His name's on the sidewalk forever. Tyler Booker is an Alabama great. and this will be his last game. One other guy nobody talks about who's also a great, I know it's not a traditional position that we have to talk about, but James Burnip will leave, I think, as the second or third best punter in the history of the program. I think J.K. Scott's clearly number one based on what he did over the course of a 4-year career. Chris Moore would also
Chris Moore. Don't you poop on Chris Moore?
He'd have to be up there. Although I'll tell you, I think Burnip's yard per average over his last 2 seasons is better than Moore's, but Moore had such a long NFL career. I think you can't help but factor that in. But let's just say that James Burnip is maybe the third best punter in the history of the University of Alabama football program. That's a heck of a thing to say. So he's a great 2. So Milroe, Booker, and Burnip with Jahad Campbell on the verge of perhaps a fantastic NFL career. You might also want to lump him into a potential Alabama great because we tend to value those NFL guys. So that's going to be a little emotional, obviously, for everyone. And then other really good players, C.J. Dupree in his last game. Malachi Moore can't play, but it's Malachi's last game in an Alabama uniform on the sidelines. And not a great, but one of the great people in Alabama history. Malachi Moore, one of the last 5-year starters I think we'll see at Alabama due to the COVID thing, which gave him an extra year, and also the fact that most players that start as long as he does don't stick around like he did. So that's also emotional. Malachi Moore, seeing the last time number 13's out there, even though he won't be playing because of the injury.
Okay, so let's talk a little recruiting here for a second. The All-Star games are coming up. Meanwhile, Alabama's still making some pretty serious moves with some heavy hitters along the offensive line. The offensive line recruiting's going gangbusters. The number 2 player in the country, and then there's Cantwell. I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that seem to be giving Alabama a lot of love. And then the Keys wide receiver kid out of Mississippi tends to like Alabama a lot. There's another receiver out of Mississippi, that's top 100 guy that is called Alabama's leader. So I think recruiting is going very, very well right now, Jimmy.
Oh, it really is. The National All-Star Games, this week and next. We got Joseph Hastings from BOL at, I believe he's at the Under Armour game. He's a lot of great interviews. They have weird things, these All-Star games now. The All-Star games are now 25 and 26 kids all together. Some of the most highly recruited 26 kids are there. It's kind of weird if you're you need to look into that.
Is that because they will be enrolling early? They can't do the All-Star thing twice, can they?
I think they could. I think they potentially could, although I don't know that any will, because this is new to having, these juniors there. I think what it is the early signing day made this game less interesting because all these kids have already signed. Many of them, like Marshall Pritchett's at this game, who's been practicing at Alabama for a week, and now he's going to this high school All-Star game. I think what it is, Luke, they wanted to have guys there playing in this game that are national big names that no one knows where they're going to go, that they haven't signed yet. And obviously the 26 guys are a whole year away from signing. So I think just the early signing period has sort of killed these 2 huge national All-Star games. So they're having to change the format to make it interesting. But that's what's going on. We'll go over these names as the weekends come, but January is Junior Day month at Alabama, which means there will be some Saturdays in January and February. Alabama will invite their top junior targets to campus, the ones that are targeted right now. Of course, that list changes over the course of a year, but a BOL will put together those lists. Bone and Hastings do a great job of putting those lists together of kids that are likely invitees to campus, and we'll talk about them as they approach. But I'm excited about flipping the calendar and getting to a whole new list of new names. These 26 guys, Alabama picked up one over the holidays in Zion Gibson. We talked about him here, the corner from Gadsden, who's a national elite prospect. Tank Jones, number 1 prospect in Alabama from St. Paul's and Mobile. Interesting guy because I think that's going to be an Alabama versus Auburn battle royale. It'll feel like the 80s or the 90s around here with an Alabama-Auburn in-state battle for the number 1 prospect in Alabama, Tank Jones. That's coming this spring and summer. That'll be fascinating.
All right, Jimmy, let's we're going. Let's do a pod before the game tomorrow. What do you say? And like give our predictions then, and then we'll do a post game pod too. So we won't do predictions today. Instead, we'll talk a little bit about the basketball team yesterday getting a big win, finishing 11-2, which is like the best non-con record we've had in God knows how long. And
2011, 2012. That's right. Since 2011, 2012.
So, I went to the game yesterday. Crowd was okay for a Sunday afternoon against South Dakota State. South Dakota State is not bad, by the way. Love seeing Aiden Holloway score 26 points. He took 19 threes. Is that what he took? I think
that was right. A lot of shots.
And what's funny is Nate Oates said later, I want him to take even more. And I think that the whole goal here is to get Aiden Holloway super confident. I mean, I think the year at Auburn, rightly or wrongly, I'm not blaming Bruce Pearl or any of that. I'm just saying it just didn't come together for him. And I think he got a bit of the yips. He missed some open threes yesterday, but he hit some good threes too. And he played pretty hard. He took a shot to the face at one time yesterday that wasn't called, that was clear as day. I can't believe they didn't even review it, but he took an elbow to the face and he just played through it. And that was tough for him. Mark Sears, still not Mark Sears of old, but like Mark Sears always does, he put up 20 points. Grant Nelson, boy, he's, we needed him at the beginning of the game. He made the first 8 points. The player of the game to me was Diabate. And I know he won the hard hat too. He should have. He fights. He just gets in there and fights. He's a poor man's Dennis Rodman. And I don't mean that as an insult to calling him a poor man, but I mean, he's not quite Rodman. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying he gets in there and scraps and claws and he wants the rebound. Shoot, he missed a free throw and got his own rebound. I mean, how often do you see that anymore? Just a couple other thoughts that I saw, and then I'll let you rant. Cliff Amore. Boy, Jimmy, you hate to say it's been a disappointment to this point, but man, where's all this rim protection? He got plenty of rebounds yesterday, I guess, but where's the production down low? Where's the intimidation? I'm ready for him to pick it up a notch. I feel like, based on the amount of hype he got coming in, he can pick it up a little bit. Still just a beautiful specimen of a human being out there. I want him to start, and it may be a sort of thing with Aiden Holloway. Maybe he needs to grow into it a little bit, but I think it could be picked up a little bit in terms of production. I think he only had 2 points yesterday. And he needs to have more than that. He probably needs more touches, but I think he could have more putbacks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Cliff just needs to be more aggressive. I mean, I'm not saying he's the opposite of aggressive. I just think he needs to be more aggressive. I mean, that's what I see in him. I pictured him being more active, I guess might be a better term.
Yeah, that's a good term.
Defensively, rebounding, shot blocking, a little more stat sheet filling. I never expected him to be some sort of offensive, juggernaut. I knew offense really with him was going to be some dunks and some putbacks, maybe some lobs. But I think defensively is where I would like to see more out of Cliff. Like you said, the rim protection I thought would be a bigger thing. I think just a more aggressive Cliff. But I know there's 18 SEC games to go. The season is going to start being defined now. And I don't think we've seen a completely comfortable Cliff yet. So I'm more jury still out, but agree that I thought to this point it would be a little more impactful, but I'll still go jury out. Aiden Holloway. I think Aiden Holloway for now is just going to be real streaky, which is fine because you got so many other good players. But I think on some nights like yesterday, Aiden Holloway is going to be one of your best scorers on the team. And I won't be surprised if some games he just sort of disappears a little bit. He just still seems to be a little streaky to me, but I do like how he plays hard. And he's not just like a setup shooter. I mean, he attacks the rim and is a good little athlete. And it's fun. The Auburn thing will always be fun because so few players are going to go back and forth between Alabama and Auburn. But overall, I give it an A to the non-conference portion because 11-2 against that schedule is deserving of an A. and they're a top 6 team right now, top 8, top 6 team. But the SEC is going to be brutal, starting with undefeated Oklahoma. Oklahoma's beat up a lot of bad teams. I mean, it's a lot of bad teams Oklahoma's beat, but they've also beaten some good teams. They beat
Arizona.
Michigan and Arizona are ranked like 26th and 27th in the net. They got 2 other top 100 wins. So it's not just tomato cans, although it's largely tomato cans. But still, no, Oklahoma is going to be a challenge. And then there's 17 more just like it after them. So brutal SEC schedule. We've covered that a lot. But yeah, it gets real with the SEC schedule starting next Saturday. But hey, let's beat Michigan. One final thing about football I forgot to mention. I wonder if this isn't a meaningless bowl game because of Michigan's opt-outs. To me, it's more meaningful. You know why?
Yeah, pressure.
If you lose to Michigan with all those opt-outs, the tone of the offseason is different.
And not only that, the tone of the offseason is different. The outlook of the SEC is different. Jimmy, people, I mean, I'm already hearing national people like, we talked about poor old Texas A&M yesterday. I mean, people are really harping on that Texas A&M USC loss. And you know what? They kind of should be. They kind of should be, because Texas A&M had a 24-7 lead. I didn't even realize that because the game was on at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Right. But they had a 24-7 lead and they blew it. I mean, they had the better everything. And
Oklahoma losing to Navy is also just dreadful.
Oklahoma losing to Navy is catastrophic. It is because they had a 14-0 lead. If they had just been, him hauling around the whole time, both teams, and Navy ekes one out, I think we go, okay, well, Oklahoma, is missing Jackson Arnold, who came on a little bit late, and blah, blah, blah. They had a 14-0 lead, and they gave up a 95-yard run. By the way, somebody corrected me and said that quarterback hit 21 miles per hour on that run. It didn't look like 21 miles an hour. But it was, how Joe Paterno used to make his players wear black shoes because they look slower, because he wanted them to look slower. Remember that?
I do remember that. Was Horvath wearing
he was wearing all black. He looked like
he's wearing six
black.
Like
he wore Elvis Presley in Vegas. Anyway, one other thing, I can't believe I didn't say this. All my love, all my heart. I hope Happy New Year to everybody, but especially LeBaron Philon. God almighty, Jimmy, that guy. He's so good. I know Cooper Flagg's freshman of the year. LeBaron Philon is first team all freshman, all American. And my 100% of it, he plays so hard. Yep. He loves to get in your face. He loves to go get.
He has fun out there. He loves to play.
Oh, he makes me want to go to the game just to see how much fun he's having. Yep. He's just always contagious. I'm getting chills talking about that.
I'm going to beg of him, though. I'm going to beg of him one thing, because it's so important. It's so few guys are born with the ability to play in the NBA. I mean, it's like a lottery team. You're born with the ability to be an NBA basketball player, and there's no question LeBaron Philon is. LeBaron, don't go to the NBA until you are ready. There's a difference between going because you can and going when you're ready. Make sure your game is – don't go to the NBA to spend 3 years in the G League. Go to the NBA when you're ready
to
JD
play Davidson.
NBA basketball. And that's sort of what I'm alluding to. And I'm not saying he's like JD, because I see their games are different. But
they're sort of similar.
But there is enough similarities that lead me to this rant. This won't be the last time you'll hear me saying this either. I think Philon can work on things at Alabama that will make him a better, more ready NBA player than he is today. Now, he'd be drafted if the draft was tomorrow, because he can go to the NBA. Go when you're ready, man. I want to see you
make money here.
I want to see you have a long career playing NBA basketball. And too many guys have gone to the league before they were truly ready to be NBA basketball players.
The J.D. Davidson comparison is there. I think Philon is a better all-around player. Davidson's a better leaper. But now Davidson could be, he might be one of the MVPs of the G League. I mean, he's kicking butt right now, and he may get called up, and that's great. But it's several years down the road, and I'm like you, man. LeBaron, nobody even remembers J.D. Davidson right now. Like nationally basketball guys. See, LeBaron, be here another year or two. I don't think you're going to be ready until 2027.
He's got to improve as a shooter.
Filan's
not a great enough shooter yet. I think he could develop into one. He needs to be a better shooter, and that will come where? At Alabama. I think Alabama can improve your shooting. And
you know where his best plays yesterday? I mean, other than steals and rebounds and just overall awesomeness, his little teardrops where he gets in the lane and it's like, there's no way you're getting that over that dude, because they had a dude like number 45 who looked 712 years old. I mean, that guy looked like some kind of Viking.
That guy had an extra year of eligibility. That guy's got one more year. And I watched the whole second half, kind of watching him going, is this a Bama portal candidate? I'm not sure. He gave us a lot of trouble.
Well, he had some nice post moves, and Amori looked stronger, but that guy had some country strong about him.
Yeah, he
South Dakota State strong.
There's some basketball IQ to him too. I mean, he knows how to play. I just think he'll be an interesting portal candidate. I see him playing one more year of college basketball somewhere in the big time.
So far we're getting the kid from North Dakota, and we're getting the South Dakota State kid to portal. We've already got our team made for next year, and LeBaron's coming back. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow early before the game so we can have our predictions. We're going to do that tomorrow. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.